Hey, what's up, YouTube? So, today I'm going to be answering the question that everyone always asks me: what is better, CI or low life? And I'm going to go give some insight onto why there's so many people actually playing CI and not low life, even though I do believe that low life is superior, probably for 90% of all players playing Aura Stackers, unless you have some omega-ly good gear. Also today I did a lot more 5-way hosting, and it turns out I get around like 12% or so per 5 runs, putting me around like 2.2ish%, and maybe 2.5 on some runs and 3% on some really good runs. So the XP is not too bad. You can see here, I don't know, you actually can't see, but I'm at 63% XP, which is pretty good by all consideration, right? I'm getting up there, and tomorrow I'll definitely be level 100. And then the journey for the Aura Stacker is kind of over in terms of level. I won't have to worry about dying anymore. I can do any boss I want without worrying about the XP ramifications. So, yeah, it's actually crazy how fast it is to actually level with 5-ways. Like I said, every single rotation of 5 maps gives me around, let's say, like 12% or so. So, around like 8 rotations or 9, and each rotation takes like 30 minutes because it's 5 maps times like 5 minutes 30 seconds. So it's like a 4.5 to 5 hour level, or 6 hours from 99 to 100, and that is super fast. So you can only imagine how fast it is for everyone else to go from level 90 to 95 or 85 to 90. I had someone in my party in one rotation go from like level 70ish or to 80 or something. I don't even know. It was absurd. But basically, like I said, it's one of the best uses of your money. It's also the best way to make money. And it's also, yeah, it's just really good overall. It's just overpowered. So anyhow, let me get quickly into the gear overview. At this point, like pretty much the gear is almost always going to be the same until I buy some upgrades. But I'm just going to talk quickly about like what upgrade paths I do see for myself in the future. So for the gear overview today, I have this Nebulous here. I swapped back to using my double damage Nebulous because damage does seem to be a little bit of an issue for single target in the 5-way. So if you're doing 5-way or anything where the damage is kind of needed, I would use double damage. So this thing can randomly one-shot some of the bosses with just one penance brand, which is really good. Now I wanted to quickly touch up on why we can't use another aura ring, or why I can't specifically. So if I put another ring, so there's 3 auras that you can have on Call of the Brotherhood, and it is Hatred, Wrath, and Zealotry. Now the problem here is that these auras are on our Prism Guardian, and we can't fit any other 50% aura onto our shield, which gives us the 25% reduced reservation. So the only auras that we have are Herald of Ash, Herald of Ice, Precision, Herald of Purity, and then we have Clarity, and then the rest of the auras are in here. Purity of Lightning, Purity of Ice, Purity of Fire, and Vitality. So the only 50% auras are Hatred, Wrath, Zealotry, Haste, and Grace. So that leaves only 3 auras available to put on our shield. So if we want to be as efficient as possible, because the Prism Guardian gives us 25% reduced reservation, we want to put all of the 50% auras on our shield. So if we put one on our ring, that means that we actually cannot run a 50% aura on our shield, which means that we actually lose out on RMR by putting it on our ring. So if I actually got a Wrath or Zealotry ring for my setup, I would be unable to run my auras because I wouldn't have enough mana, because I actually lose RMR by getting an aura ring. So that's just something to keep in mind, because in the end, you want to reserve as much of your life as possible, and that includes putting your 50% auras on your life. Another thing to keep in mind is that the enchant actually matters. So the enchant for the helm always has to be an enchant on an aura that is casted on your life. Otherwise, it will not work for your mana reservation for your life pool. You'll figure like that you'll have some life left over. Now, this is something that's a very common problem that people have. A lot of people are like, why do I have so much life unreserved? And the answer is always, you have an aura enchant that's on your life instead of your mana. So I hope that helps everyone out, because like finding like the perfect solution of how to like arrange your auras is actually part of the problem of playing aura stackers, and why it's always hard to like suggest to people, oh, what should I do with my links, because it's really different for everyone, right? everyone has a different amount of aura modules, everyone has a different aura ring, everyone has a different aura enchant on their helm. So it's all about playing around with it. In reality, the best thing to do is to have as few arrogances as possible. So in my scenario, I only have one arrogance link. So generally you want to link arrogance to like your damage auras if possible, but a lot of times like you just have to link arrogance to the 35% auras, because otherwise you will have to use multiple arrogances to reserve all of your life. So that is a big issue. Now in the 5 ways I still use Asenath because I believe that the explode is pretty good for clearing, and explode is just good in general for any mapping that's not what's it called, that's not like bossing. So for these pair of boots, I could get a Sork boots. I could also divine it a little better, but nowadays divining items is really tough without the targeted divines from Harvest. So this is something that I'll probably have to keep for a while. And this amulet is literally everything that's wrong when you don't have Harvest. It makes it really hard to actually get an amulet like this because you can't remove an ad to get the crit. So at this point, I have some options. I can either mirror an amulet that has Vitality Aura on it, which would open up a gem slot. But right now, I don't even know what I would put in the gem slot, right? So I have Vitality here, so I would be able to put maybe a Herald of Purity here. Or I would be able to put an Enhance and enhance Divergent Purity of Ice for another 3% pen. Now, that's actually kind of like an interesting scenario, right? Am I willing to pay 1 mirror to get 3% pen and to get some gain percent as lightning damage and perfect multi? The answer is that it's probably not an efficient upgrade at this point, even though it's pretty good. My amulet is pretty good. It's only missing a vitality aura. So that's just something to keep in mind when you do gear upgrades at this point, because like if I did that, I could probably get like 1 or 2 or 3, 4 more RMR cluster jewels for that 1 mirror, and I'll be able to get more ES and more multi that way. So that's something to like look at. So you're juggling between, oh, am I going to get 3% more pen, or am I going to, along with another aura slot or gem slot and 18% more fizz damage, or is getting 4 RMR clusters better? Or you can get another 1 passive point voices, although the 1 passive point voices is always going to be the least efficient upgrade at around 2.5 mirrors currently. So we have the 7556 jewel. So this jewel, so I feel like a lot of people, when they look at Glorious Vanities now, something to keep in mind is also like, is there this node? Because now that we're Penance Brand people, when you try to sell on Glorious Vanities, you should look at if this node exists. 10% of physical damage converted to lightning damage. Because without Flesh to Lightning, we actually cannot convert all our damage to lightning. So the way it works is Penance Brand converts 50% of Fizz to lightning. And then you have a Watcher's Eye that when Max Divine goes to 40%. So that means you need to get 10% elsewhere. So the only way to get 10% is through the tree with Glorious Vanity. There's usually a 10% node here, but because we put the Glorious Vanity node here, it changes it. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're looking at Glorious Vanities. You maybe, if you ask someone to put it in, you can ask them, oh, can you put it in and see if the Flesh to Lightning shows up before you buy it? I know it's a big hassle, but some people would do it, especially if it means that they could sell it for like 10x or 15x or whatever. The best way for Glorious Vanity buying is to ask them if that node exists, because it does change everything. Because if we didn't have Fizz to Lightning, we would have to drop, so you can't drop Divergent Swift Brand, it's a mandatory link. You can't drop Penance Brand, and you can't drop Inspiration. Without Inspiration, our mana cost goes through the roof, and we actually can't cast Penance Brand anymore. So then we have to drop Awaken Cold Pen for Fizz to Lightning, and what that means is that without Cold Pen, your boss damage is going to be really bad. Cold Pen is incredibly efficient for the beginning portions of it. Like Cold Pen is really good to getting the mob to 0, and then later on it gets less and less efficient per additional point of Cold Pen. So that's just something to keep in mind again, like when you buy the Glorious Vanity, because a lot of people are getting better and better gear now, and a lot of people want to play Penance Brand and they want to get the helmet. So after you get the helmet, you need to make sure you have a Glorious Vanity with Fizz to Lightning. If you don't have the helmet, I probably recommend Penance Brand, Awaken Cold Pen, Inspiration, Divergent Swift Brand, Conk Effect, and last one would probably be Fizz to Lightning if you don't have the helmet yet. You either run Fizz to Lightning. If you do get the Glorious Vanity, you could probably run like Awaken Control Destruction or something like that. And those would be the links I would run. Because I know like not many people actually have the helmet, so it's important to keep in mind what you could run without the helmet, which would be in a 6 link. And make sure if you have a 6 link to get a +2 upgrade. The +2 is a really cheap upgrade. And yeah, so hopefully that helps everyone with the gearing process and my thought process regarding my own gear upgrades. So now let's move on to the age-old question of CI or low life. So now we're going to answer the age-old question with Path of Building and Poe.Ninja of why low life and CI are close, but low life should just win out in all scenarios, and why so many people actually play CI. Because I was actually curious myself, like why are there so many CI players? And there's a simple answer, and it really just lies in Poe.Ninja. So you can pretty much all blame Poe.Ninja for this whole debacle about why CI dominates the leaderboard. So if you're aspiring aura stacker, you don't watch my stream or anything, right? You go to this list right here. Like this is sorted by DPS of the top like 20 or so players. What do you see? You see that everyone is playing CI and that it is very a big change. Yeah, sorry about that noise in the background, but yeah. But basically, you see that the number one players are CI, and what do you see? They're all using 4 large clusters. So let's take a look at what it looks like on Path of Building when you use 4 large clusters. So you import the code here. So you have everyone. So they have 140 points. Does anyone have 140 points in the game? No, no one has 140 points in the game at the moment. So you take out these points right here, because the way that Poe.Ninja does stuff is that they just allocate every single point in your cluster jewel. So that's how people cheat the system. So like right now is probably more realistic. This guy's actually had 128. So you take out all his points. His damage is already down to 17.8 mil. And 17.8 mil is probably already way down there, right? And this is not even the whole story. So if you look at the buffs, right? These people don't have haste. So you have to turn on haste for them. Discipline, grace. So this is everything. So this is what the actual guy actually has after you take out all his points. So he's around like, this is level 98, so 21.5 mil. Now you look at one of these other people, right? This low life guy. See, the big difference about low life is that you have, that this guy has horrible gear actually. But let's just use him as an example. So his damage should still be miles higher. Now the big difference with low life damage versus CI is this guy also has his points, so you have to take these out. And yeah, he also has some other stuff, so he probably does not actually have all these nodes here. So you just adjust it until you're level 99, and this should be it. So it's 15.6 mil, but the big difference is you go through here, he doesn't have haste enabled either. But look right here. Poe.Ninja does not actually turn on Righteous Fire. Now, that's just a mind-boggling thing, right? How can you compare builds without Righteous Fire? You turn on Righteous Fire and bam, 28 million damage. Is that even comparable? Like, what build is higher damage now? Like, the damage for low life and CI is just incomparable. So if you take out, so you have 28 mil, right? So what happens if you're not low life? So you take out this one, you're at 18.8. Let's take out Pain Attunement. You're all the way down to 14.4 mil. So the difference between low life and CI is double, roughly half. So you will roughly do half damage compared to CI. Now this is actually pretty funny because this is a pretty big deal for it, since low life, people look at the Spark thing, right? And they see that, oh, everyone's playing Spark. Then they're like, whoa, everyone's playing low life, CI. Then they're like, oh, I should be CI too. And that's just what happens, right? Everyone becomes CI. And yeah, it's just a copycat pattern. Everyone now sees that, oh, there's a lot of people playing CI. They see the Poe.Ninja, the CIs at the top. So then everyone's CI. So that really shows you how much Poe.Ninja actually influences the meta, even though the meta is judging something that's completely incorrect, right? Because the Righteous Fire is just not included. But you can see this is like time and time again, right? So the same thing can happen if you look at this guy's damage. So this guy here, stack silence X, import the code over. You have to take out these nodes, but I mean, you don't even need to take it out. You can just see the auras that are on and not. So Righteous Fire, see, this is weird, right? You would think that Righteous Fire would be activated since it's not a vol skill, but you can see enabling or disabling it does not do anything. But if you actually added it manually, Righteous Fire, right? Now you see the damage is higher now, right? So it's actually just a huge debate of what's going on Poe.Ninja to make everyone play CI. Now, the only real benefit of CI over LOWLIFE is the fact that you have 100% Chaos Res, but it's actually incredibly easy to get Chaos Res in today's day and age if you use large clusters with Chaos Res. And also, LOWLIFE benefits a lot from Arrogance Link. You can see that this anomalous quality has reduced life reservation. So there are certain scenarios where CI wins out, and if you want to do CI, you should expect that you do half damage. If you're comfortable doing all the content in the game with half damage, then yeah, you can be CI. You'll be slightly tankier, but you'll also have to deal with another issue, which is reservation jewels. So if you look at all these people, right, a lot of people who play CI have a lot of like reduced reservation skills. Well, this person doesn't have it, so I'm not sure. So he has to use other stuff like Sublime Form to get it, or they have to use like, I actually don't know how this guy actually runs all his auras, but generally CI makes it a lot harder to run all your auras because you don't have your life pool, and it's just something that shouldn't be a budget option for a lot of people, because in the beginning it's very hard to actually get the reservation. So this person here, right, has reduced reservation of skills. So in order to copy like CI setups, you have to spend like 50-60x on one cluster jewel. So this guy has how many? 2 of them already? 3. So you have TS 3 of the reservation clusters, and that's just really expensive. That's already like 180x or so in the jewels. So let's see if this person has any. So CI is not a good budget setup at all. And the main benefit of CI is the fact that you can get, this person has some reduced reservation of skills jewels. So the big benefit of CI is that you can actually get yourself to 400%. But the problem is that these people's setups, they don't get to 400%, right? So these people you're copying, they don't do as much damage as LOWLIFE. They don't get to 400% to get the huge tankiness that you get. And they do half damage, and the only thing difference is 75% Chaos Res versus 100% Chaos Res. And that really just doesn't matter, right? The game is balanced around 0% Chaos Res, so having 100% Chaos Res is really not that different from 75%, especially when a lot of us use Aziri's Promise to overcap to get 75% Chaos Res. And another downside for CI is the fact that it's actually hard to run all the auras. Everyone I talk to tells me that, oh, you have to get some RMR clusters, or you have to run some Sublime Forms or something, or you have to do a lot of like finagling around to get to be able to play CI. And another thing is you need to be extremely high level to play CI if you want to use the 4 large cluster setup. So I don't know exactly why this 4 large cluster setup is so popular, but I'm not really sure anyhow. But in the end, the damage is not worth it, because if you're only at 15 mil damage, you're still like kind of like, there's still a lot of room to grow, and I feel like you should always be LOWLIFE. The Arrogance is a really overpowered gem in this scenario. But I do agree in the end, once your damage is like 50-60 bills, CI is probably a pretty good option if you can hit 400%. Like if you can hit 400%, that does give you a lot more tankiness, and in that aspect, when you don't need the damage anymore, then CI wins out. But if you're a beginner and you're just trying to copy like Poe.Ninja profiles, don't get baited. All the LOWLIFE people do astronomically more damage than CI, and it's just the way that Poe.Ninja configures the settings that makes CI looks like they win out, especially when they especially when they don't turn on RF. So this is actually one of the few people I know who's at 400%. So like you can see why they can get 400%, right? They have this socketed gems have 15% reduced reservation because they can't use Prism Guardian. And this gives you 10% right there. And that 10% is pretty big in the grand scheme of things. And another thing is that their Glorious Vanity, they can put it into here and take 1 point for 23%. So it's much more efficient. So they use, this person uses 3 voices to get it. And then they have a bunch of, all these clusters are, are aura effect jewels. So you actually cannot play CI if you're planning to play Penance Brand. So CI is more of a spark thing where you stack all aura effect cluster jewels, And you can see this guy has insane gear to get to 400%. He has a Glorious Vanity that's probably like around 50, 60 to 100x depending on it. And he has a 15% increased effect helm. So he can get to 400%. So this guy's gear is worth an insane amount. So this should like give you a more of a better look as to like how much gear level you actually need to have before you can go CI to reap the full benefits. And even with his setup, his damage is still miles off a low life character's. But his survivability is pretty good. But that's not to say the low life player cannot have the survivability. Like he only has this much ES because he's stacking like 35% effect, 12 ES, and 8 int jewels. Like if a low life player did this, they would have nearly the same amount of ES. Like the only difference is the shield having some ES. Whoa, this guy has a 410 ES shield. Yeah. But in the end, hopefully that clarifies the whole scenario. But TLDR is don't go CI at the start. It's a lot harder to manage. Your damage is cut in half. But if you have enough damage late game, you can go CI. It's better if you can reach 400%. And yeah, but you need to have a lot of damage and you need to have a lot of gear and RMR clusters to make the reservation work out. Like this guy even has like a couple. But hopefully that clarifies the whole situation. And I just wanted to show a little bit more of a 5-way clear that I did today because I was able to optimize the setup a little bit more so that you can see that you mainly just want to clear around the ring and it's a lot more efficient for XP. Because the 5-ways are all about getting XP, and XP is what we do the 5-ways for, and it's not to kill the generals, and that's where I made the mistake before. So hopefully showing the 5-way clear shows how Aura Stacker is actually not a bad 5-way hoster as long as you don't charge full price and let people know that you're not a lightning arrow character with 3 inspires and a head on. Anyhow, I hope everyone enjoyed the clip. I know it's a little long to show the full 5-way, but didn't really have that much other content today because that's all I did. Tomorrow we will be level 100 and I'll stream a little earlier. But yeah, I mean, getting 100 with 5-ways, I feel like it's almost cheating. It is way too easy. You would get it in like 5 to 6 hours. And if you host the 5-ways, you don't even lose money. Like if you look at my currency pool right now, I started at 37 exalts. I bought like 20 sets, I think, 20 total sets for today's stream, and I ended up with more currency, and I charged a bottom price of 1.5x. So I was actually going way under what people were charging. So if you wanted to get 100 fast and you don't want to spend any currency while doing it, just host some 5-ways if you have a headhunter or you have some money left over. And people will still go to you. You lower the price a little bit. You get 2% XP at 99. That's 50 sets. And if you let people know that you're just not a headhunter, inspired learning person, then they would understand. And a lot of people who like advertise for 4% lie about it, I'm pretty sure, because there's only a few people who can do 4%, and they probably have an aura bot with them or a really insane resetter. But yeah, the bulk of the video was about CI versus lowlife. I hope that enlightens people. Don't get tricked by Poe.Ninja. Like Poe.Ninja is a very good tool, but it's also a tool that should be taken with a grain of salt. And you should really compare the profiles when you look at builds to see what all the different people do. Like some people will just start like tooltip warring it like crazy. Like some people have sniper marks in there. Some people run skitter bots, which increases the tooltip a lot. So make sure to always look at the settings. Make sure to always look at the skills they have on their character, just to make sure you're not getting tricked. But in the end, low life is greater than CI in almost every scenario until you have insane gear. And for beginners, definitely choose low life over CI. The aura makes it a lot easier to manage. But if you enjoy the content, be sure to like and subscribe. I stream every day on Twitch. And yeah, and have a good time and see you later. And I hope you find more mirrors and exalts than I do.